Hello and welcome to my live interview today for the Victorious Souls podcast. Today I have a woman who is a veteran. So we want to thank her for her service. And today she is going to be sharing her story about a traumatic brain injury that she sustained. She is a wife. She is a mom. She is an author. She is a pediatrician and a retired Army lieutenant colonel, sharing her story today about how she suffered that traumatic brain injury and how she overcame that traumatic brain injury. And she has a book, Hot Mess to Wellness. So welcome with me today, Amanda Zeine. She'll be here. And for those who don't know me, I am Danielle Bernack from daniellebernack.com. Love yourself from Survive to Thrive, that lady on the internet who loves you. So welcome with me today, Amanda Zeine. Thank you, Amanda. I told them that I just got stuck on the veteran thing first and just messed up my whole intro the way I normally do it. Just say thank you for your service. We just had Veterans Day here, and just thank you for all you have done for us. And thank you for being with us today to share your story about, your injury and overcoming and your new book. But before we get into all that, share a little bit about growing up and how you got to where you are today.
I grew up in Illinois, a little town, middle of nowhere, really. I always wanted to be a doctor. So basically, I had no other goal in mind. I initially wanted to be a surgeon, and then I job shadowed a surgeon and was like, no way, I don't want those hours. I now realize that a pediatrician has worse hours than a surgeon, because you work a lot of inpatient. I don't think doctors
have great hours anyways, do they?
Yeah, not unless you're a specialist. My junior year of high school, I was in a bad car accident and had a pretty significant head injury with that car accident. But because my other injuries were so bad, the head injury was not really talked about. Then again, it was in 97. So I don't know that a lot of emphasis was put on head injuries back then. It was never, ever a thing. I did no recovery whatsoever.
Wow.
Looking back on it, I think about that, but at the time, and even up until recently, I never really thought about it. I graduated high school. I did pre-med. I always, I was, matter of fact, one of the ROTC people I went to college with used to make fun of me and joke around about how I never went out and partied. As far as the Army goes, I never wanted to be in the Army. Didn't want anything to do with the military at all, period. I told recruiters, no way, ever. Nope. And we were at a open house for a college I was looking at. Private college, super expensive. Mom said, I have no idea how we could pay for this. You should sign up for this scholarship. And Major Jaco, yes, that was 20 some years ago, and I still remember his name, talked my mom into this scholarship for the Army. And my mother said, you need to apply for this. I said, oh yeah, sure, whatever, I'll never get it. And then I got the stupid thing. And in order to get it, I had to jump through all these hoops because of my head injury that I didn't realize was a big deal. And my car accident in general, just because I had 2 collapsed lungs and 2 chest tubes and broken bones, and mainly ribs and collarbone. And then, I hit my head, obviously. So I had to get all these letters from doctors saying I was okay. And then I got the scholarship, but I had a year to decide whether or not I wanted to go ahead and commit because it was a 3-year scholarship. So my first year of college, I did not have to commit. I just got to try out kind of ROTC, and I loved it. I had so much fun.
So
Love the
ROTC was
people.
in college, not high school?
Yes, ROTC was in
Ah,
college.
okay.
Yes. So my high school was a teeny tiny high school. It was made up of 3 towns and had a total of 300 people in it. It is super small. As a matter of fact, it's even smaller now. My sister's son just graduated last year and his class had 49 people in it.
Wow.
Yeah, we were a very, very small. I grew up on, my parents had I think 6 acres, and my grandparents had a farm surrounding that. So yeah, I was in the country. And so I went to college, did ROTC, loved every minute of it. And went ahead and branched. So when you graduate college in ROTC, you're also commissioned into the Army as the lowest ranking officer that you could possibly be. But you're an officer as opposed to enlisted.
Wow.
And you have to branch, and you don't necessarily get a choice in that. You get to give them your options and your preferences, but that doesn't mean you're going to get them. And if you want to go to medical school, you not only have to branch, which your branch doesn't really matter if you go to medical school, because you also have to apply for a delay in education. So I had to get into medical school, get a delay for education. And I was also applying for what they called at the time an HPSP scholarship, which is basically a scholarship to pay for your medical school, which is a much better deal than ROTC. Back when I was in ROTC, they support you a lot more. But back then, I got $150 a month, $450 a year for books, which bought 1 biology book.
Yeah.
And they paid my tuition, but they did not pay my room and board. So I still had to take out some loans. But medical school, everything was covered.
Wow.
So yeah, it was an amazing deal. So I was really, really hoping. I already owed 4 years to the Army because of being in ROTC and then paying for my college. I was really hoping that I would get the scholarship to pay for my med school, because it just made sense. Why have a bunch of debt if I already owe time? At that time, my goal was get in, get out, get done. I still did not see myself staying in the Army. So I ended up branching medical service corps, which basically meant that I would be like an ambulance driver, or not an ambulance driver, an ambulance company platoon leader, or a basically just a leader in the admin type areas. Then there's medical corps. So I actually commissioned twice. I commissioned in 2002 into the medical service corps. And then when I graduated med school, I commissioned in 2007 into the medical corps, which is where all the docs are. So, yeah, went to med school, graduated med school, and was supposed to go to Texas for my residency. And my were we married at the time? It was my first husband. Can't remember if we were married or engaged at the time. On match day, I found out we were going to Hawaii, which was a huge shock because we had no plans to go there and moved far, far away from family, which was hard. And had my first child while I was an intern, or my only child, I guess. I say first child because now I'm remarried and have 2 stepkids, and
okay.
I consider them my children.
Well, that's a
even
good
though
thing.
they're not biologically mine. They're still my boys.
Yeah.
But I had my daughter my first year in residency, which was not ideal.
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
I've seen too much TV. I don't know how much it goes with that, but just thinking about TV, it's like, oh my goodness.
It put me about 6 months behind my peers. I definitely was at a disadvantage because I couldn't do inpatient medicine while pregnant because they put a cap on your hours. The military does. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with now medicine has all these caps on residents, and they don't get near the education they should get. Yes, I get it. We need caps because of people getting tired and we want to reduce mistakes, but there are a lot of caps on them now that I feel decreases the education they get, but that's just my opinion. Little me. So yeah, I did my first 3 years in the Army in Hawaii, but didn't get to enjoy it because I was working 80 hours a week in the hospital. We did get out some. I shouldn't say I didn't get to enjoy it because I did get to go out some. But yeah, I graduated residency and basically was told you're going operational. So the difference is you either work in a hospital and do nothing but medicine and take care of whoever it is that you trained 3 years to take care of, or you go operational and work on what's called the force comm side, and you're a battalion surgeon,
which does that mean in layman's
basically
terms?
Means, yeah, which just I was going to explain.
Okay.
Which just basically means that you take care of soldiers. You take care of soldiers. That's all it means. Like the surgeon general isn't a surgeon. Right. It can be a nurse. It can be a doctor. It can be a PA. It's medical. But the battalion surgeon is basically a doc that takes care of the soldiers in that battalion.
Okay.
And because I was a pediatrician, I was considered basically general medicine, and I could fill any of those spots. So when I was in residency, I was lucky enough. They tried to send every resident on some type of medical mission. And I was lucky enough that my schedule matched up with Cobra Gold, which is a mission that the Army and Navy do every year together. And the Army Seabees go out and work on the schools in Thailand. They build things. The engineer corps, I think, was out with us. We basically did 7 different clinics in 5 different places and saw thousands of people. Wow. It was one of the most amazing experiences. Because
how much time was that?
We were there for 16 days. Wow. And I saw some of the most incredible things because they don't have modern medicine. I saw a woman who literally walked across the mountains from Burma to cross the border because she heard Americans were going to be in Thailand. She she brought her baby in, and that baby had the worst hydrocephalus, which basically means that there's so much fluid, it's not draining properly, the spinal fluid in the head. That the baby, it was horrible. The baby's head, it looked like an alien because the top of its skull was so large from the fluid. And the baby was 18 months old, but was about the size of a 6-month-old.
Wow.
So we sent the baby to the hospital, but I doubt even in Thailand that I doubt in America that they could fix that baby, because it was something that we fix right away. It's something that we see that in a baby in utero, in the ultrasounds. And it's amazing. Some of the most simple things that we do. We gave all the kids a toothbrush and chocolate, which totally makes no sense. But
I could see the irony of that.
and they all got wormed. We gave them a little bottle of parental, which tasted like banana. I ended up taking some because I kept telling them all it was delicious to get them to take it. I learned we all had a translator too. So myself and the attending doc that was with me, Dr. Verghese was her name. She was one of the attendings, had our own interpreter that was with us. There was a family medicine resident and attending also. And then there were a bunch of medics from throughout the hospital. And I kept telling these kids that it was, so I asked my interpreter how to say the different things. And so I could, say some things. I was like, man, I'm telling these kids this is delicious. How bad is it? It wasn't horrible, but it was like eating a piece of chalk that was banana flavored. It was not good. But to see the joy on the kids' faces when we gave them a toothbrush, and then like you'd go to the bathroom and they'd have like a trough sink outside.
Yeah.
And the kids would be brushing their teeth. Like they'd be so excited for a toothbrush.
Yeah.
I think everyone should do something service-wise when they graduate high school. I think everyone should something. I think there should be some kind of program that, pays a stipend for you to live, and there's maybe even housing, and there's an inner city version where you can go in and help the underprivileged kids here, or you can join the military, or you can join the Peace Corps. I think everyone should have to do a year where they see how other people live and they understand a little bit more about how awesome we have it.
Yeah.
Because especially our kids now, they don't realize, and even some adults, it's like, oh my gosh, my phone doesn't work. It's the end of the world. And I think we all forget sometimes because we're so used to certain things. But then you go and you see the joy on a kid's face because you gave them a cheap, like probably less than $1 toothbrush, because they're bought in bulk. Like it's just, it's something that I think that everyone should have to experience.
Yeah, it enlarges our view because all we know is our own perspective. We can't expect people to know what they have no knowledge of. And so enlarging their view, like one thing, raising our kids, I've been to Guatemala a couple of times. I wasn't there for a year, but both of my children have been there, and they've been able to view a different culture.
Wow.
And they took us on, we were helping at a girls' home there. And the gentleman who ran that, he took us on, different tours and stuff like that and helped us be safe. The first time I went, they were during their Civil War, which was kind of intense. But he took us to a place where people lived on the garbage dump. People live on a garbage dump. I mean, just to even pause and think about that. And both of my children have seen that and smelled that. And it just changes, to even fathom that. So even if, a senior trip, if they could incorporate it in with a senior trip, like do 2 of them, one that's fun, go do something fun, but then like do some sort of like you said, a service trip to go to some difficult place to see life different than you. Hopefully a third world country, if it's safe enough, because, you want them to come back.
Right. So, usually we want them back.
But yeah, I agree. That's really important. I was listening to a podcast today and she was saying the same thing, that she believes that they asked the question of how do we help motivate our young people? And she said for them to do service, for them to see the world a different way, to enlarge their view is how I like to put it, because it has to be made bigger. They have to see beyond their own life. And we all have our emotions and how to deal with them. But when you enlarge your view, it helps you to deal with that and builds resilience in you and thankfulness and gratitude. You're thankful for your toothbrush that cost $3 or whatever, instead of 49 cents.
Yeah, or whatever, you look around you and you're like, wow, I have a lot of stuff. These people have almost nothing. I did in college, I did what's called alternative spring break, which is basically volunteer trips. And then I did it one year where it was a nationwide thing and multiple teams from different schools went and met. We were down in New Orleans. And unfortunately, all our work is now gone because Katrina hit after that. And our school was like right on the water that we worked at. But you had your experience that you went through. Yeah. No one can take that away from you. Is Alternative Spring Break a program, or did they just call it that? It is. It's a program. It's nationwide.
I've never heard of it before. I'm going to remember that. Alternative Spring Break. Look into listening people, take note of this. If you have teenagers, if you have high schoolers, if you're a teacher, look up Alternative Spring Break and see if that might be a way you can help our young people to enlarge their view.
Granted, this was, back in 2000. So
maybe it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it until
just now.
Right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good idea. So maybe if it's gone, maybe someone will be inspired to bring it back. So
yeah. I did 2 different or 2 different spring breaks. And then I did one, the nationwide one is over Christmas break. So I was down in New Orleans for New Year's Eve and not allowed to drink. But you do get to do some fun things. We would have a fun day where, we went and went to the French Quarter, and I'm trying to think, we went to the beach when I did the one in Florida. And then I did one in West Virginia. There wasn't a whole lot of fun things to do in West Virginia.
Okay. Take note of that. So you were in the Army for like 15 years then, after all of this. What kept you there for 15 years? You were going to be in and out, and that was 3 years or 4 years, and then you added 11 more after that.
So I owed the Army 8 years total after residency.
Okay.
So my residency was the first 3 years in Hawaii. And then, part of my head injury is that I jump around. The reason I told you the story about Thailand, or at least was talking about Thailand, the day I got back from Thailand, I had an email from my consultant. So in the officer world of the Army in medicine, you have what's called a consultant, and the pediatric consultant just happened to be the previous chief of pediatrics. So I knew him very well. Full bird colonel, which is 3 ranks above a captain. In the regular Army, captains don't converse a lot with full bird colonels. In the medical world, it's a little different. You mix ranks a lot more when working, just because there are doctors that are both. Whereas in the regular Army, unless you're directly working with them, it's just there's a lot less of that. So I called him up and said, sir, I got this email that says I'm going operational. I'm a pediatrician. I'm not taking care of soldiers. And he's like, yeah, you are. I was like, no, sir, I don't want to. I'm like, that's not why I got in the Army. And he's like, Amanda, you got no choice. You're taking care of soldiers. You're going operational, and you need to pick aviation because you'll like it better. So I kind of had a choice between being a battalion surgeon with infantry units or being a flight surgeon, which is not a surgeon doing surgery in the back of a helicopter, as my mother was telling all of her friends. And I was like, somebody, I don't know if it was my sister or somebody called me and was like, you need to call your mother and tell her to quit telling people you're going to be doing surgery in the back of a helicopter. But so basically I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Okay. So I chose 4 assignments and ended up at Fort Campbell, which is where I still am. It's on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's Fort Campbell, Kentucky is what it's called. But believe it or not, most of the base is in Tennessee. And I've always lived in Tennessee when I was down here. So on the way to Fort Campbell, I went to flight surgeon course. It was a 6-week course just to kind of basically get you in the know about all of the things that altitude can do to the body. And
so it wasn't teaching you how to do surgery in the back of a helicopter. No, just double check it.
I mean, we did have some protocols where you could do some procedures, but no. And you only did that if you had to do.
Right.
Right. So, and then basically all of the regs about what pilots can and can't take, what makes it to where they're not allowed to fly. And because we took care of all the pilots that were in the battalion, as well as the crew, and then all of the soldiers. So, basically you were taking care of all kinds of folks. So I ended up with an Apache battalion. So the Apache is my favorite helicopter. I ended up deploying 5 months after I got to Fort Campbell. Deployed for a year, and I went into operational medicine, kicking, screaming, dragging my feet. But within a few years, I was telling leadership that it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Oh, wow.
Because it let me see how the Army works. A lot of docs never leave the hospital and don't understand how their soldiers' lives truly, words are hard. Like how they truly live their lives, how the Army truly works, because medicine is different. When you're in the hospital, when you're in the medical side of the Army, It's different. It's not the same. Yes, we still have the rank structure. Yes, we still have the same ratings and regulations, but it's different. It's just completely different.
It's a different view. It's another thing
yes,
of enlarging your view.
yes. And so the officer professional development, we're so focused on medicine and how, to do all of the medical side of things, that you get less of the military focus. And then you end up being this doc on this, special group of people who help the commander make the right decisions. And you get all of this professional development working with this commander where they're focused more on leadership. And so I feel like I got so much out of that. And then deploying, again, the medicine you see. I mean, I had to tell a family. So I was on an outlying forward operating base. So basically you have your big areas, and then you have these little areas, and then you have even smaller little areas. And I was on one of those kind of medium size areas. And there was a special forces with us. So we had what's called a Roll 2, which is basically a hospital. And then there was a forward surgical team, which is basically they have a lot of the same capabilities as the hospital, but are really more focused on surgical, so if there's a mass casualty and they're bringing in a lot of folks. So because it was on a special forces part of the base, they were very interested in hearts and minds, and they did a clinic, and a family brought in their little girl whose head was shaved to make her look like a little boy. Because little girls are not valued as much as little boys over there.
Yeah, but I know in Guatemala it was that way. That's why they had started that girls' home.
Yeah.
It's like that in many cultures.
But then again, children are not valued. I saw so much child abuse, but it wasn't the parents. It was the Taliban, and it was ways to threaten the parents. Burns and falls. But the PA called me and said, "Hey, I can't figure out why this kid is not gaining weight." And it was a 2-year-old that weighed 6 kilos. So like a big newborn can weigh 5 kilos. Like 6 kilos is 12 pounds, 13 pounds. Yeah, 2-year-old, skin and bones. And so I went over there, and she wasn't able to get the kid to stop crying to listen. And I was able to kind of play with her and, whopping heart murmur. And where it was and the way it sounded, I think it was what's called a a VSD. I can't.
Okay, that's
fine.
I don't understand.
A hole between the ventricles. It was making.
We understand that.
Making the noise, of the heart, which is a defect that gets found by months of age, and surgery done here.
Yeah.
But this little girl will probably die. And so I had to tell these parents that there was nothing we could do for their child. This is likely what it was. He took the the kiddo, which they were very like invested in this child's life, which is not the way a lot of the parents were over there. We had a mom come in that we thought was miscarrying, and her exact quote to the basically, it's God's will. And I have 8 more at home, so it's no big deal.
Wow.
Because they're so used to the kids dying and the mortality rate over there that I was shocked when this dad said no, and they went up to a hospital that was somewhere else, and I don't know what happened, obviously.
Wow.
But they were very invested in this child's life, which is different than the culture over there. But yeah, I saw some interesting things. Again, being in a country that doesn't have the medical assets that we have is eye-opening.
Yeah. And then you had a brain injury in high school, but then you got injured again, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were, you became a doctor, obviously, and you're struggling with speaking now, and you went through all this stuff that you told me about. No, I'm bringing that up not to mock you or anything, but for people to understand. It's not like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not like that.
Words
are
hard.
What you've overcome. It's something you have overcome. We don't even know what you came from. So how did you get injured, and then where did that leave you? You've recovered fantastically, from what I understand.
Let's see. So basically I've been at Fort Campbell this whole time, and I did my first 3 years here. So as a flight surgeon, and then I went over to the hospital, and I had to deploy again in 2016, had a 9-month deployment. And then let's see, 2018, it was December 26, 2018. All the kids were here. So I was remarried by then. All the kids were here. My current husband has 2 boys and my daughter. We were ice skating, and I fell ice skating twice. Actually, I fell 3 times. So
you're not the only one who falls ice skating.
It's embarrassing because I took figure skating lessons, and I know how to ice skate, but I had never worn hockey skates, and I didn't realize how different they were. And so I got up on them and tried to skate the way I know how to skate. And
they said no.
They are not.
Said no. You don't skate like that.
They are not. So the very first lap I took, I fell and hit my knee, and I was like, I totally got this. Well, as I rounded the corner, I fell, and I don't even remember the second fall. But my husband says I fell and hit my head really hard. Well, I remember falling, but I don't remember hitting my head. And then I got up and fell. And the last fall was so hard that my glasses flew off my face.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't realize it. I was just kind of sitting there and like, this is ridiculous. Why do I keep falling? And somebody puts my glasses in my hand, and I'm like, where'd those come from? And mind you, I can't see the big E, but I didn't notice my glasses weren't on my head. So my husband was going to take me to the ER, and I said no, obviously, because
you're not stubborn or anything. No,
not at all. So I said no. Well, my husband was deploying in 5 days, and the kids were all there. It was our family time. It was the last family time we were going to have for 9 months.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, no, I'll go sit down. Well, then in about a half an hour, because we'd paid for 2 hours of ice time. So damn it, we were getting 2 hours of ice time. And and so I said, I'll go sit down. Well, in about a half an hour, I got up and tried to get on the ice again. And he comes skating over and he's like, whoa. So he talked me out of it. Well, we ended up going home. The kids said I was hilarious that night. Like I was making no sense, saying all kinds of crazy things. And so I had a headache constantly. And the morning we had to take him for his flight, like, cause you have to be there like a million hours early so that you can sit and wait for the plane to get there. I mean, everybody jokes around about hurry up and wait, but it's a real thing.
Oh, it is. It was like that in Guatemala too. Hurry up and wait.
That's like the military in a nutshell. So we're sitting there, getting ready to go, and I was taking Excedrin migraine. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a headache. Nick's like, yeah, you have a headache. You've had a headache since you hit your head because you have post-concussive syndrome. I'm like, no, I'm fine. So I continued to self-medicate with Excedrin migraine and basically ignore all the signs. I tried to go back to work. It did not work. I nearly passed out. Luckily, I had a lot of other people around me that were able to help out.
It's funny because they talk about how mechanics don't take care of their own car, and here you're a doctor not taking care of your own health.
Doctors and nurses are the worst patients. We are horrible. We do not follow our own advice.
Oh my goodness.
So finally, my husband nagging me for my rack got me to go to the doctor. So I made an appointment. That afternoon, I nearly passed out, running in the hallway. Went to the doctor and he said, yeah, you need a CT. And I said, I don't have time for a CT. I'm on today. I'm working on the floor. I don't have time for a CT. He's like, you find somebody to cover you. You're having a CT. So I got a CT. And then he's like, you need brain rest. I said, yeah, but I got to work on Sunday. And he's like, you're giving me 48 hours. And so I said, fine. And so I had to switch the schedule around, which I didn't want to do. At the time, I was chief of pediatrics. I already had to have people cover for me because my husband's deployment times had changed. Mm-hmm. And so I had to switch the schedule around. I didn't want my employees to have to cover for me. I was the chief. It was Christmas time. We're still on our, Christmas break time. Mm-hmm. I don't want my employees and my colleagues to have to cover for me. So finally, I was talked into 48 hours of brain rest, but I had to work Monday because I had traded that day with someone and I was going to work her shift. Well, my boss behind my back had frozen the schedule that was still open because he was worried about me. Most amazing boss I've ever had in my life. He's actually now my doctor. He's retired and is now working as a civilian. And he's one of the most amazing docs I've ever met in my life. And the most amazing leader. He's just, I don't know how he does everything he does. One of those people that you just, he's amazing. So I took my Excedrin migraine and went to work and had issues all day long. And my nurses were amazing. I do absolutely. The pediatric clinic and the nurses and staff that work there are, I still say, a guy from work, they are my family and they will always be. Like that is, I worked there from 2013 in some way, shape or form until 2018 when I fell. And then they all supported me even after I fell. And they still support me. And I still stop in and say hi. They are truly my family. But
so you showed up for work and it wasn't working. What happened then? Did you keep working for a while, or did they step in and they forced you to retire? What happened?
That very day, my nurse walked in to tell me about my last patient and said, I'm going to go find somebody else to see this patient. I don't think you can. Like, I was in my chair and the room was spinning at that point. I had finished all my documentation, and I texted my boss and told him, hey, sir, I saw all but my last patient, doc so-and-so is going to see my last one, or I think it was one of the mid-levels, one of the nurse practitioners. Somebody saw my last patient, and he called me, and I got the biggest butt chewing of my life. He told me I was not allowed to come back to work until I was cleared by a neurologist, and I needed to take better care of myself. Yeah. So basically a month goes by. Oh yeah, everybody's usually better by a month, but that's okay because like 97% of people are better by 3 months. 3 months goes by. I'm still not working, but I'm trying to run my clinic from home. And my boss basically said, you're going to the WTB, which is the Warrior Transition Battalion, which is basically where you go when you're injured, and they move you there so they can get somebody to come in and work in your position. Unfortunately, docs only come once a year. We have PCS season, permanent change of station. So whether or not I was in the WTB, they still weren't going to get anybody to fill my spot. But at least people weren't confused about who was in charge. The real reason he sent me over there was so that I would quit trying to be in charge.
You would quit trying to do what you were not capable of doing.
Yeah, basically, I felt guilty that I was letting my clinic down. And
I can appreciate that. But then you weren't giving them your best either.
No.
So it's like a complicated mess of feelings there, huh?
It was hard because I went from being this, go-getter, never stop chief of pediatrics to sitting in a dark room, headaches daily, unable to do anything. And so they put me in the Warrior Transition Battalion, which is now called the Soldier Recovery Unit. And I went to the TBI clinic on post, which was amazing. My therapy there was great. I went 8 months with literally 8 months of migraines. I had 2 headache-free days because I had to keep a headache diary. I still keep a headache diary. I have an app, and I only record when I have a headache. I don't record every day. If I have a headache, usually it's the next day, I'll record headache or migraine because my neurologist that I see now still wants to know, like, are we improving? Because I'm still not where she wants me to be.
And so how long ago was this at this time now? How long ago was your injury now?
So
was it back in 2018?
It was December 26, 2018.
Oh, yeah. So that's 4 years, almost 4 years.
I'm not practicing medicine now. So I did practice medicine for a little bit. My boss called me. Actually, his admin assistant texted me on a Sunday morning that he needed to see me ASAP. And I ended up being the chief of COVID triage and started up the phone lines for COVID at the beginning of all that mess, and worked March, April, May, June, about 4 months. And then I called him crying, literally. I was so stressed out. My migraines were worse. I couldn't do it.
I can't imagine working with a migraine.
I tried to go back. And I tried to go back. But even seeing patients, I can see about 4 patients. And the problem with kids is half the time you're chasing them around the dang room. And that is one of my hardest things, is when I change planes, I get off balance. And so the up and down, not good for me. I was working out with a friend one time, and she wanted me to do squats. And the first squat, I almost fell over because I can't do that. I've gotten better. I know how to, slowly do things to where I can, but I'll still forget. Like one day when I was showing off a dress to my husband and I spun in a circle, and I was like, whoa, that was not a good idea. But yeah, so I still fall occasionally. But then the fatigue is crazy. The headaches take everything out of me. If I have a headache or a migraine, I may sleep for 2 days and the pain's gone, but I'm still completely worthless. I think I've total had maybe 3 or 4 headaches since the injury that I couldn't get rid of the pain and had to go into the ER or the clinic to get them to break the pain. So 3 or 4 times in 4 years, I'm not really whatever, but
it disrupted your whole life.
It's everything.
When did you retire from medicine, and when did you retire from the Army?
Well,
was that the same time?
Yeah,
because they were married to each other.
Technically retired from medicine. I'm still licensed. I'm still a board certified pediatrician. Okay. I'm keeping up all of my my licensure and my board certification because I hope maybe
in enough time you'll be all better. That'd be awesome.
I don't think I'll ever be all better, but I'd like to get to the point where I have the coping skills to maybe even work part-time. So I retired from the Army. It took 3 years. I was medically retired because I kept trying to go back to work. That kind of delayed things. But my last day in the Army was July 23rd of this year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I am officially medically retired. And at this point, I'm focusing on crafting. So one of my recovery things that they wanted me to do was they wanted me to focus on one of my hobbies. And I was like, what hobbies? All I do is work. So one thing that was great when my husband deployed was that his family is local here and they were amazing. They really took care of me. So my niece took me to the bookstore because it's like this huge, everything. And we decided, we were going to find me a hobby. So I tried origami, and that is not for me. Yeah, it was not good. I'm too much of a perfectionist. Origami is not a good thing. So I tried crochet, and it took 3 tries, and I finally got it.
Okay.
And then I went over to my husband's Mima and had her teach me how to crochet the tops on the little towels that hang, the little kitchen hand towels. So now I am a vendor. I have my own little business called Amanda's Crochet Cubby. And I do a couple of vendor events a year, and I have my things in a little booth at a small store. And I just kind of, it helps me relax. It gives me purpose. It's hard going from a like full steam ahead to like, now what? Like I was a successful doctor and I can't even do my job now. It took a good couple of years for me to accept that and accept who I am now.
Yeah, you stayed in the Army all of that time during your recovery and through your therapy, and you're still in therapy. And in there somewhere, you wrote a book. Where in that timeline did you decide to write a book, and how long did it take you to write a book? And it was just published this year, wasn't it?
Last year. It's been a little over a year. Yeah, it was beginning of November last year, I think.
Okay.
Hold on.
2020.
I can look at the book. What does it say? Yeah, it was last year. Yeah, it was 2021.
So hold up your book and tell us the name of your book.
So my book is Hot Mess to Wellness: 7 Steps to Better Health When You Have Tried It All and Had Enough. So yeah, it was April of last year. 2021. Yeah. I was kind of getting to the point where it was like, all right, I've, hit my lowest and I'm trying to claw my way back out. I'm sick and tired of all this. I feel like crap all the time. Is it my head injury? Is it because like I've just let myself go? I was the heaviest weight I had ever been. And I was sluggish,
You were a hot mess.
I was a hot mess. I still am a hot mess. It's a journey. I talk about the journey in the book a lot.
Journey. So you're working on the wellness.
It's a journey. Yeah. I'm on the 2 part still. So it was April of last year, and I was like, I went back to the bookstore, and I couldn't find anything. Like, everything's like this hardcore, like, go, like some HIIT workout or some paleo diet or something where I got to cut a bunch of stuff out, or I got to do all these calculations. And I've played that game. I've done diets, and diets don't work. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted something more. So I started writing myself a plan. And 4 pages later, I was like, I ought to just write a book. So I Googled, how do you write a book? And I found this place called Self-Publishing School. And I talked to them, and it's not cheap. I will probably never make the money back that I paid, but I wrote a book, and
you published
it was a huge accomplishment for me.
Yes.
And it held me accountable. As a matter of fact, writing this book held me more accountable than I am now. I will say I have fallen off the wagon, and
you need to read your own book.
I actually, yes, I do, except I probably have it memorized. I know what to do. And everything in this book is something I already knew. I had to do very little research for this book. I did have to do some, for the specifics, but it's all easy stuff. I mean, so it focuses on more than just diet. It talks about mindfulness and being in the moment, and basically starting your day off doing something to slow yourself down. And it talks about how I used to literally roll out of bed, throw on clothes, and go to work, be in a hurry, be angry all the time. And if you just stop and start out your morning and try to do something to center yourself, it slows down your whole day and changes your whole mindset.
Oh, it does.
And so, yeah, so the very first chapter is mindfulness. And in every chapter, I talk about taking a week and setting a habit. And if you need longer than a week, take longer than a week. If you want to read the whole book, that's fine. But then go back and do each chapter individually. Because if you try to change everything all at once, it's just going to fail. And so I talk about mindfulness, and then I talk about relaxation and having hobbies. And so, now what's really helped me through my recovery is not only my crochet, but my chickens. I'm kind of obsessed. I have 11 of them now. So I have chickens. We moved out into the country. Finally, I'm back in the country. We have 5 acres. And one of the stipulations when we were buying a house was that I wanted enough land that I could have chickens. And so that was one of the things we looked for. And I have my chickens now. Okay. And so that is one of my hobbies, and just sitting and watching them. Oh my gosh, they're hilarious. They're the stupidest animals, but yet they're smart. Like, it's just crazy. But yes, I love my chickens. So yeah, so you've got the relaxation, and then you've got sleep. If you don't get sleep, you can't recover. You can't,
your body can't restore itself. That's when it restores itself, is when you're sleeping.
Again, words are hard.
I learned the power of sleep this past May, because I got COVID. And
I got it in June.
And I slept almost constantly for like 2 or 3 days, and really learned the power of sleep from that. And I changed some of my sleep habits because of that, because sleep is very powerful. I know not the first one to know that. There's other people out there who've made a thing about it. So I know sleep is a very powerful thing. So,
and I talk about the different stages of sleep and just kind of explain it to people, because this book, when you write a book, they're like, who's your avatar? Who's your, who are you writing this for? And I'm like, me. I'm my avatar. Like, I want to write it to the hot mess chick who needs to read about something that, there are all kinds of me out there, and so that's who needs this book. The woman who is tired of being a slug. You want to feel better. You want to get up off the couch, but you're not going to go do CrossFit. You're not going to
therapy or
right. So yeah, I talk about these are the changes that you can make in your life that are true changes. They're doable. They're small changes that, and then I get into hydration, the importance of actually drinking fluids. Yeah, I am a hypocrite. Every morning I do my coffee, and I have to start with coffee. I got to do my coffee. And then I get into the diet. But I talk about what to eat. And before I get into the what to eat, I talk about healthy eating. I go through, let's go out to dinner. Let's go out to dinner at a steak restaurant. And let's just talk about that meal that we eat, because we all do it. We get there and we eat the bread.
That's more beneficial than, just the other way of doing it. You have to have life application. Life
Yeah. Well,
application for
think about
these
it.
things.
We eat the buns. How many pieces of bread do we eat sitting there waiting for our meal, And then, then you get the steak, which is 2 to 3 times a portion size, and we eat the whole thing. Then you get that potato that's so stinking big and probably at least 2 portion sizes. And then in addition to that, you've got the salad, but the salad's covered with ranch dressing and croutons. And so, I mean, you're eating so many portion sizes, and it like we overeat. We really overeat. And then we're starving the next day because it's like, oh my gosh, I have to eat that much again, And so it talks about all of that. It talks about portion sizes and looking at what you're eating, what's
Give us the titles, the chapter titles. We're going long on time here.
Oh, okay.
So I want to
so basically it's mindfulness. Let me see. Let me find I don't want to tell you wrong. My memory is horrible.
Table of contents.
There we go. Mindfulness, relaxation for the body, mind, and spirit, restful sleep, hydration, ditching the diet, what foods are healthy, let's get moving, and finding the support you need for your journey. And then in here, I have links to my website, which is very horribly managed because I will admit I am a failure at managing a website. I wanted to do a blog and all that stuff. It's not me. But there are some logs that you can download and print out on there, the Wellness Journey weekly log. And then there's also some charts and other things that you can get on the website. So,
awesome. Where can they get your book? At your website? Is it available on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. And you can just type in Hot Mess to Wellness, and it should be one of the first few things that pop up. Awesome. It's available ebook and softback. I'm trying to get it into the bookstores, but I'm slow at getting things done. And I'm at the point now where I am recording a audiobook, but I'm doing it myself with the help of a producer. So it's also slow moving because I am not technology. I am technology challenged. Slowly. And I'm also writing another book right now. So a children's book. So yeah, I'm trying to do way too many things at once. And at times I get overwhelmed and then just don't do anything at all.
Because sounds like a lot of humanity.
That's how my brain works.
All right. So how can people connect with you? What's the name of your website? Are you on socials?
I am. So my website is Hot Mess to Wellness as well. But it has the dashes. It's hot dash mess dash.
Well, I'll have the website in the show notes and everything, but
okay.
I'd like for people to hear it from you. So
yeah, so yeah, absolutely. And I do have no, that's it. I'm trying to think of what I have, and then my email I believe is
that accessible on your website?
I think it's on my website. Okay. Yeah. And then Amanda's Crochet Cubby is also another way people can get in touch with me. I have a Facebook page as well as a website.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Anything you want to share before we tie this up?
I think the biggest thing, I started doing podcasts because I wanted to get my book out there, but in doing them, my injury really has been a focus of a lot of them. And I think one of the biggest things that has come out of doing these is that people can't let their injury or their trauma, whether it be, PTSD and you don't have to be in the military to have PTSD. There are so many other ways. But you can't let that define you. And I did for a long time. You have to kind of figure out who you are and who the new you is and create that person and not let that trauma define you. I'm still trying to figure out who that person is. People ask me, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Because that's kind of where I am now. It's funny. My sister's son just graduated high school and he's trying to figure himself out. And I was talking to him on the phone the other night and I said, dude, I'm in the same place as you are right now. And I'm 42 years old. Like I'm kind of trying to figure out who I am and what I want to do in life. It's like I'm a teenager again, going out in the world and trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
But that's a testament that we can at any time in our life stop and do that. If we find that we have just gone down the road and we find ourselves somewhere because life drove us there, or, the authority figures in our lives drove us there,
right,
or we made a bunch of bad decisions and found ourselves somewhere, no matter where we are today, we can start today and start building a new future.
Right. Well, and I'm lucky that I have the support system to do so.
And that's so important. Support systems are extremely important.
Yeah. And I have a great support system. The military itself has provided me an amazing support system.
That's wonderful. I know not every veteran has that story.
Yeah. Well, some of the best people I know, the hospital in and of itself, the people I worked with, but my husband and his family and my family, they're all an amazing support systems. Yeah. So I'm lucky, but
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us today. And for those of you listening, I want you to feel encouraged. If you are stuck somewhere, you can start fresh today. If you have a support system around you, tap into that. And if you don't, reach out for one. There are places available. And if you don't know where to start, reach out to Amanda, reach out to me, and maybe we can give you some places to start for you to start finding that support, because support will mitigate trauma. Support will help you to stand on your own 2 feet and become your best self. So thank you for being with us today, Amanda. And thank you for those listening to us today. Until next time, I love you.